The pervasive dampness of the Maine woods enveloped me, a chill creeping through my worn jacket as I stood there, bracing for what lay ahead. The autumn drizzle was relentless, yet it paled in comparison to the weight of anticipation hanging in the air. I watched David Carter, my new partner, nervously adjust my binoculars, his youthful face betraying a mix of awe and fear as we peered down at the ancient chapel nestled within the dense trees. I remembered my own early days in this line of work, filled with naive assumptions about mimics and the threat they posed. Those days seemed distant now. Experience had chipped away at my innocence like a sculptor refining a block of stone. The reality was far more unsettling than I could have ever imagined. As I focused on the ground around the chapel, an unsettling pattern caught my eye. Thousands of tiny perforations dotted the earth like needles had punched through it. Each hole seemed to whisper secrets of something unnatural lurking beneath. I felt my heart race as I observed how those tiny marks spread outwards, creating a tapestry that hinted at something much larger than mere coincidence. In that moment, I saw the chapel slowly rotate on its base, its grand facade turning to face us directly. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as dread washed over me. There was no mistaking that this wasn't just another mindless mimic, something far more sinister was at play. I heard David's sharp intake of breath beside me, a silent acknowledgement that mirrored my own growing unease. The way the building shifted unnaturally sent shivers down my spine. Its windows seemed to glare menacingly, almost as if they were aware of our presence and judging us for it. A chilling realization struck me: we weren't merely observers, we were intruders in a domain that didn't welcome us. "Do you think it knows we're here?" David whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "I wouldn't doubt it," I replied, forcing myself to maintain composure despite the cold sweat forming on my brow. "We need to stay alert." The atmosphere thickened around us, every rustle of leaves sounded amplified in the oppressive silence that followed his question. An unspoken tension settled between us as we continued watching the chapel's unsettling movements. At that moment, I felt compelled to act. "Let's get closer," I suggested quietly, hoping to quell my rising anxiety with decisive motion. My legs moved before I could second-guess myself, carrying me toward the building's ominous presence while David hesitated behind me. With each step forward, I sensed an invisible barrier pressing against me, a warning from something deep within those ancient stones. As we approached, shadows danced along its exterior walls, flickering like restless spirits caught between worlds. Suddenly, a strange sound pierced through the thick air, a low rumble emanating from within the chapel itself. It echoed off the trees surrounding us and sent chills racing down my spine. My instinct screamed for us to turn back, yet curiosity rooted me in place. "What was that?" David asked incredulously as he caught up with me. "I don't know," I admitted shakily but pressed onward anyway. "But we need to find out." As we neared the chapel's entrance adorned with intricate carvings worn by time, a sudden gust swept through the clearing, cold and biting. It whipped at my clothes and sent leaves swirling around us like frantic dancers caught in a storm. My heart pounded louder now, an urgent rhythm against the backdrop of nature's eerie silence. Steeling myself against rising panic, I pushed open one of the heavy wooden doors. It creaked ominously as if protesting our intrusion into its domain. As darkness swallowed us whole upon entry, every instinct screamed for retreat, but there was no turning back now. Inside was more disconcerting than anything I'd anticipated. Dust motes hung suspended in shafts of dim light filtering through stained glass windows, colors distorted by years of neglect and decay. The air felt thick with secrets begging to be uncovered yet warning us away at once. "Are you sure this is wise?" David murmured behind me as he scanned our surroundings warily. "I need answers," I replied firmly despite feeling uncertainty gnawing at my resolve like rats scurrying through shadows unseen. As if answering my challenge, a low thrum vibrated through the floor beneath our feet, an unsettling resonance that made every hair on my body stand on end. It echoed louder now, the very walls vibrating in response, as though awakening from centuries-long slumber. "Marcus!" David exclaimed suddenly, pointing toward an altar shrouded in darkness at the far end of the room where faint glimmers beckoned like distant stars in an infinite void. "What is that?" My voice wavered slightly as anxiety surged within me once more, this time mingled with excitement tinged by dread. Before either of us could react further, shadows coalesced into forms around us, faint outlines shifting among dust-laden beams overhead, each movement deliberate yet ephemeral enough to evade full comprehension. Panic gripped me tighter than before, even breathing became laborious under unseen scrutiny. It was then that realization hit hard: whatever this place held within its walls was not merely historical significance or remnants of forgotten faith, it was alive. And it knew we were here. I turned back toward David just as his eyes widened in horror at what loomed behind him, a silhouette emerging from darkness seemingly materializing out of thin air. "Run!" My instincts kicked in before conscious thought could catch up. I sprinted toward safety while adrenaline surged through every vein. Our footsteps echoed ominously against aged stone, the sound fading into silence behind us, as terror propelled us forward into uncertainty. In those frantic moments fleeing together side by side fueled by fear and urgency, I realized something profound: nothing would ever be quite normal again after this encounter with whatever haunted these hollowed halls. If you're intrigued by what's unfolding here alongside Marcus and David amidst shadowy mysteries lurking just beyond sight, leave your like below. The air thickened with tension as I stared at the chapel, its strange movement sending a chill through my bones. I knew something had to be done, and I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to steady. "David, get me the duffel bag," I commanded, sharper than I intended. The weight of urgency pressed down on me as the chapel began its slow, deliberate advance towards us. I watched David scramble with the bag, his fingers fumbling in a way that mirrored my own rising panic. My heart raced as disbelief washed over me. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Trained for countless scenarios, none prepared me for an opponent that twisted the very fabric of reality. As he finally pulled out the grenade, the cold metal felt heavy in my palm, a desperate measure against an enemy I struggled to comprehend. With a swift motion, I pulled the pin and tossed the grenade through the chapel's ominous open door. Time stretched as I counted the seconds in my mind, each tick amplifying my dread. But instead of an explosion that would signal some form of victory or escape, there was only silence, a disturbing stillness where chaos should have erupted. At that moment, shock surged through me as the chapel rotated 90 degrees and began grinding away from us. It felt less like retreat and more like a calculated maneuver, like it was playing with us. Fear gripped my chest tightly as realization dawned: this thing wasn't just some mindless structure, it possessed a cunning intelligence that sent shivers down my spine. "Where is it going?" David's voice trembled beside me, barely above a whisper. I turned to look at him. His face was pale and wide-eyed with disbelief as he processed our situation. In that instant of distraction, I realized something horrible: our only way back, the truck, was gone. My heart sank as I turned around to face what remained of our vehicle. It lay pulverized into fine dust, metal components scattered like sand across the landscape, a graveyard of hope reduced to nothingness. "David!" My voice cracked as his gaze shifted toward the wreckage, his disbelief morphing into sheer terror. "We need to move." Panic laced my words, urgency clawed at my throat as I grabbed his arm and pulled him away from our lost chance of escape. As we stumbled backward, my eyes darted around frantically for any sign of salvation or direction. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched ominously around us. The oppressive silence hung heavy in the air, each rustle of leaves seemed amplified by our mounting fear. Just when I thought we had managed to distance ourselves from danger, a deep rumble echoed from behind us, a sound so foreign and chilling it made every hair on my body stand on end. Turning slowly, dread pooled in my stomach as I saw it. The chapel had repositioned itself silently behind us on the ridge, a hulking shadow against the dimming sky. I couldn't breathe, every instinct screamed at me to run yet rooted me in place with sheer terror. "What do we do now?" David's voice was barely audible over the pounding in my chest. "I don't know," I admitted hoarsely while scanning our surroundings for any possible escape route or weapon against this looming menace. My mind raced. What kind of creature could manipulate its form like this? How had we misjudged its capabilities so severely? The atmosphere crackled with tension, dread seeped into every pore of my being as realization hit me. This wasn't just an encounter, it was a game played by something far beyond our understanding or control. My throat tightened around unspoken fears as we stood together under its watchful gaze. Run! My instincts kicked in like an electric shock coursing through me when another unsettling noise interrupted our paralyzed state. A low growl resonating from within the chapel's darkened entrance sent me bolting forward without looking back. David followed suit, desperation fueling our flight through trees whose branches clawed at us like skeletal fingers reaching out for prey. Heart pounding in sync with each hurried footstep, adrenaline coursed through my veins while panic pushed us further into unknown territory. Every glance behind revealed nothing but shadows dancing along the ground, an illusion crafted by fear itself, but still it loomed large in my mind's eye, that monstrous silhouette watching from afar like a predator savoring its potential catch. I stumbled over roots protruding from uneven terrain but fought to regain balance while urging David onward. We needed distance, time, to regroup and plan our next move before whatever malevolence lingered behind closed doors caught up with us once more. Just then came another sound, a sharp crack reverberating through the air followed by an unnatural stillness that enveloped everything around us like fog rolling over hills at dawn. My gut twisted violently as dread clawed at me anew. Something about this moment felt incredibly wrong, far worse than before. "Did you hear that?" David gasped beside me. His eyes were wide pools reflecting both fear and confusion as if desperately searching for answers hidden beneath layers of darkness surrounding us. I did. Each word left my mouth weighed down by growing apprehension, the silent warning ringing louder than ever before within these woods soaked with secrets best left undisturbed. As if sensing our thoughts entwined with uncertainty about its existence, the chapel shifted once more behind us. A dark specter encroaching upon everything we held dear while feeding off despair lingering thickly between breaths taken too shallow amidst confusion swirling like autumn leaves caught in windstorms. In those moments filled with chaotic energy unleashed upon unsuspecting souls, I understood one undeniable truth: there would be no simple resolution or easy escape from this nightmare waiting patiently just beyond sight. The only choice left lay ahead, and even now it remained cloaked beneath layers forged from shadows dancing mercilessly across forgotten paths leading nowhere good. And yet, somehow, with each rapid heartbeat echoing wildly inside, I felt determination begin coiling itself tightly around fear until they fused together within depths previously uncharted. I stared at the crude etching on the forest floor, where my truck had been, and a wave of recognition washed over me. The symbol was not just any random mark, it was one I had seen before in an ancient, forgotten field manual buried deep in my memory. My heart raced as the implications twisted in my mind, dark and foreboding. The design was a simplified version of my agency's insignia, inverted and defaced, a deliberate act of defiance from whatever entity resided within the chapel. A cold dread enveloped me as I realized that this was no mere coincidence. I glanced at David, his eyes following mine as we both stared at the symbol etched into the dirt. I could see it dawning on him too, the horror of understanding flickered in his gaze like a candle fighting against the wind. "No way," he whispered, my own voice barely breaking through the oppressive silence around us. The impossible truth began to settle in my mind like a stone sinking in water. I recalled the old guard's hushed rumors, the ones about mimics being projections. Those whispers suddenly made horrifying sense, filling me with a chilling certainty that this chapel wasn't just an animalistic predator, it was intelligent and deliberate. It was sending us a message. My stomach twisted as I pieced together the implications. This wasn't merely a hunt, it felt personal, like a vendetta against everything I stood for in this line of work. As I stood there, grappling with this revelation, I felt a profound shift in my perception of reality. The very foundations of my work began to crumble under the weight of what I had uncovered. This wasn't merely about containment or elimination, it was about something far more sinister, an intelligence that understood us better than we understood ourselves. My pulse quickened as adrenaline surged through me. "We need to move," I urged David, urgency clawing at my throat. But instead of retreating, curiosity anchored me momentarily to that grotesque symbol, an anchor dragging me deeper into this nightmare. I looked around desperately for some kind of escape route. Each shadow seemed to twist and stretch ominously toward us as if they were alive. David pulled at my arm as he too felt the pressure building around us, pulling us toward the chapel again, toward its malevolence. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice trembling under the weight of our shared fear. "First," I said firmly, shaking off my apprehension, "we need information." The urgency propelled me forward despite every instinct screaming at me to run. Each step toward that ancient structure filled me with dread yet drew me closer to understanding what lay beneath its weathered facade. As we neared its entrance once more, I noticed how eerily still everything had become. The birds had stopped chirping, and even the rustle of leaves faded into an unsettling silence. My breath quickened. This wasn't just fear, it was anticipation laced with horror. The chapel loomed above us like a dark sentinel guarding secrets long buried. Shadows danced along its surface as if mocking our approach. At that moment, something inside me shifted again. This wasn't merely about survival anymore, it became a quest for truth against an enemy that was now personal. "Are you ready?" David's voice broke through my thoughts like glass shattering upon impact. I nodded slowly but firmly, each nod echoing with resolve and trepidation alike. "Let's find out what it wants." With that declaration hanging heavily between us, we stepped over the threshold into darkness, a realm where light seemed hesitant to follow. As we crossed into its domain, an eerie chill enveloped us like a shroud wrapping tightly around our bodies. The air thickened with unspoken tension, each footfall echoed ominously against stone walls adorned with symbols lost to time. I took another cautious step inside when suddenly a low rumble resonated from deep within. The sound reverberated through my bones like thunder rolling across distant hills. My heart pounded violently against my ribcage as panic threatened to take hold again. "Did you hear that?" David asked breathlessly beside me. "I did," I replied grimly, scanning our surroundings for any sign of movement or further revelation lurking within those shadows. My senses heightened as instinct kicked in, a primal urge to survive mingling uneasily with curiosity about what lay ahead. Then something caught my eye, an artifact glinting faintly from atop an altar in front of us, a relic seemingly untouched by time yet radiating power beyond comprehension. It beckoned silently while simultaneously warning us away from its grasp. "We should check it out," David suggested hesitantly but resolutely stepping forward toward it despite the palpable tension clinging thickly around us. I hesitated for just a moment longer before following him closer still. It felt reckless but necessary now more than ever. This pursuit demanded answers whether we were ready or not. With each step toward that altar, a focal point amidst disarray, I felt layers upon layers of dread unfurling within me like petals on some nightmarish flower blooming only under moonlight's gaze. As we reached out tentatively towards its surface, all thoughts blurred by adrenaline, I heard another low rumble vibrating beneath our feet accompanied by whispers swirling through empty halls. The atmosphere shifted abruptly from tense anticipation to sheer terror. In that instant, the realization hit hard like ice water splashed across skin. This place was alive enough to know exactly who we were and why we dared intrude. Today marked not just another day on duty but rather an unforgiving trial set forth by forces beyond comprehension. And somewhere deep down, I understood then, that survival hinged upon unraveling every twisted thread woven intricately throughout this tapestry woven by shadows lurking just beyond sight. Just then, a blinding flash erupted from within as darkness swallowed us whole. I awoke to David's frantic scream, my heart hammering against my ribs as I jolted upright. The chapel loomed disturbingly close, its grotesque facade twisting and shifting in a way that defied logic. My mind raced, grappling with the horror of its proximity. I threw myself to my feet, suppressing a wave of self-loathing for letting my guard down, for allowing it to get so near. The weight of dread settled heavily on my chest, this was no longer a mere encounter with the unknown, it was a relentless pursuit. The chapel's misaligned stones and dark, clustered windows pulsated with a subtle, unnatural rhythm as I stepped back instinctively. "David!" I shouted, urgency clawing at my throat as I turned to him. Panic danced in his wide eyes as he fumbled with our gear. Without hesitation, I grabbed him by the shoulders and shoved a backpack into his arms. "We need to move, now." My voice echoed against the trees around us, a desperate plea that propelled us both into action. We began our scramble up the treacherous cliff face, each rock beneath my hands crumbling like brittle bones. The earth felt unstable beneath my feet as I fought against gravity, pulling myself upward with every ounce of strength I could muster. With each step, fear clawed at me. The chapel was right behind us, its shadow stretching ominously across the uneven terrain. I felt raw panic surge within me as I glanced back. The sight was surreal, a horror story coming to life. The chapel effortlessly scaled the sheer rock, its impossible legs writhing beneath its structure like monstrous appendages reaching out for us. It wasn't just pursuing us, it was hunting us down with an intelligence that chilled me to the bone. "Get moving!" David's urgent cries snapped me back to reality, his voice barely cutting through the pounding in my ears as we pressed on. Just then, my foot wedged deep into a crevice in the rock face. Pain shot through my ankle like fire igniting dry brush. I gritted my teeth against it but knew slowing down was not an option. Every second counted. I pulled my foot free with a grunt of effort, tearing skin and losing a shoe in the process, but there was no time to dwell on injuries or despair. The adrenaline coursing through me drowned out all else as we continued our ascent. The chapel's relentless pursuit echoed in my mind, each clattering stone behind us sounded like footsteps closing in. As we reached a narrow ledge overlooking the valley below, terror seized me anew when I saw the chapel cresting the highest point behind us. Its enormous shadow fell over us like an executioner's decree, a chilling reminder of our precarious situation. We were trapped between earth and sky, hunted by something far beyond our understanding. "Keep going," I urged David again as I pushed him forward toward what seemed like a sliver of escape, a fissure in the rock that might lead to safety if only we could reach it before whatever hunted us caught up. My breath came in ragged gasps, every muscle screamed for relief while instinct screamed louder for survival. We scrambled toward that narrow opening just ahead of us, the only hope glimmering amidst this chaos, when suddenly, the ground trembled beneath our feet. A low rumble reverberated through the air as if responding to our desperate plight. It felt alive and aware of our struggle. "Don't look back!" I shouted hoarsely while feeling every fiber of my being urged me to disobey that command, to turn around and confront whatever malevolence pursued us relentlessly. But even so, curiosity clawed at me despite every instinct screaming against it. I couldn't help but glance back one last time before diving into the crevice ahead of David. What lay behind sent chills racing down my spine, a momentary glimpse of the chapel's terrible countenance, twisted stones and dark voids where windows should have been stared back at me, hungry for our terror yet almost mocking in their awareness. Then we were through, into darkness, and suddenly enveloped by silence unlike anything before, heavy and suffocating yet oddly comforting compared to what we had left behind. I took stock of our surroundings in this new space, rough walls encasing us like prison bars, but it felt safe compared to that relentless predator outside waiting for its next meal. "Are we safe?" David whispered beside me, his breath warm against my cheek despite how cold this hidden pocket felt around us. "For now," I replied slowly while listening intently for any signs from above. The faintest sound echoing through that void above would tell us if we had truly escaped or simply delayed our fate momentarily. But deep down inside something dark whispered, "This isn't over." As those words echoed within me, I finally realized. We weren't just running away anymore, we were being hunted, not just by something physical but by an intelligence that understood fear better than we did ourselves. The weight of dread pressed down on me as I prepared for the desperate leap from the rocky ledge. I counted to 5 in my head, my knuckles white as David placed the live grenade on the ledge above us. The air crackled with tension, and I could almost hear the heartbeat of the earth beneath us. The chapel loomed overhead, its monstrous form casting an oppressive shadow over our escape route. My pulse quickened as we both took a deep breath and began our controlled fall. I felt the jarring impacts reverberate through my body as David dragged me down the rocky face, my broken fingers protesting with every jolt. Each scrape against the unforgiving stone sent a fresh wave of pain coursing through me, but I pushed it aside. Survival was all that mattered now. Just as we reached a small outcrop below, I heard a muffled thump from above, and my eyes widened at what I saw. The chapel leaned forward at an impossible angle, its colossal weight losing purchase. In that terrifying moment, I realized with a sickening lurch that we were directly in its path. My heart dropped into my stomach as the ground shook beneath me. Time seemed to slow as I locked eyes with David. We shared an unspoken understanding of what was about to unfold. Panic surged through me when I saw him spring into action, his incredible strength coming to life as he threw me sideways with ferocity. I tumbled clear just as the chapel crashed past us, sending dust and debris flying in every direction. The ground trembled beneath my body as I turned back to witness a grotesque spectacle. The chapel writhed on its back like a monstrous horseshoe crab, its millions of spindly legs flailing in desperation. My heart raced with both relief and horror at this unexpected turn of events. It seemed almost victorious, yet something primal warned me that this wasn't over. The oppressive atmosphere thickened around us as I watched David step closer to the seemingly dying structure. A wave of unease washed over me, every instinct screamed for him to retreat. "David! Don't!" I shouted, but my voice barely broke through the chaotic silence enveloping us. His face drained of color, terror etched into every feature as he approached what appeared to be a vulnerable creature. Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of something moving behind me, pulsating flesh snaking around the back of my head before I was violently yanked into the chapel's maw. A scream caught in my throat as darkness engulfed me, pulling me away from everything familiar and safe. In that instant, despair clawed at my insides like a wild animal desperate for escape. I couldn't believe what was happening. Shock rendered me motionless within that suffocating void. As if sensing my confusion, whispers echoed around me, a cacophony of disembodied voices taunting and mocking my helplessness. "You thought you could escape," they hissed in unison, their tone dripping with malice. Time lost all meaning within this dark prison. Each second felt like an eternity spent wrestling against invisible chains binding me tighter and tighter. My mind raced with thoughts of David, his face twisted in fear just moments before everything went dark. Had he made it? Was he safe? Guilt gnawed at my conscience like a relentless parasite. He had saved me only to put himself in danger. In that moment of despairing clarity, I understood. I had underestimated the intelligence of whatever lurked within those walls. It wasn't merely a mimic, it was cunning and deliberate, reveling in its power over us both. With every ounce of strength left within me, I fought against the consuming darkness that threatened to swallow not just my body but my very soul. Desperation fueled my will to resist. Visions of sunlight breaking through trees flashed before my eyes. Moments spent laughing with friends under warm skies haunted me like specters from another life. My heart clung desperately to those memories even while shadows danced around me. And then came silence, a deafening stillness that settled heavily upon my shoulders like an anchor dragging me deeper into oblivion. The whispers faded into nothingness until all that remained was darkness swirling around me like ink spilling onto paper. But then there was a shift, a stirring within this void as if something beyond comprehension was awakening alongside me. Panic surged anew when flashes pierced through the haze, flickering images revealing David's face contorted in anguish mere feet away from where I stood trapped within this nightmare realm. "Marcus!" His voice echoed faintly yet powerfully against all odds. His determination resonated even through layers of entrapment separating us now more than ever before, and suddenly there was hope amid despair. A glimmer sparked inside me, igniting defiance once more. If there was any chance left for salvation or vengeance against whatever held us captive here, then damn it all, I would find it. With renewed vigor surging through each fiber of being, I focused intently on breaking free. A surge coursed through veins invigorated by purpose alone. I would not allow myself or David succumb without putting up one hell of a fight. Yet just when victory seemed close enough to taste, a new wave crashed upon us. A thick oppressive fog encircled everything until even light itself felt suffocated. Cold tendrils coiled tightly around limbs, immobilizing any chance at escape. Despair seeped back into crevices where hope dared linger too long. I struggled against unseen restraints while emotion spiraled wildly, threatening sanity itself, but one thought remained unwavering: whatever happened next, I would not let fear define who I am. My resolve, fortified by memories, flared brighter than ever before, even amidst darkness looming ahead. And just as panic threatened once more, it struck. The sensation jolted sharply, bringing reality crashing back down, leaving nothing but echoes lingering behind. What awaited beyond this cursed threshold? Only time would tell, but deep down, I knew one truth reigned supreme: no matter how deep or dark they tried pulling us, together, we would rise again. The sterile environment of the agency's headquarters felt suffocating as I returned, my senses overwhelmed by the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I stepped into the conference room where a full team awaited, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I glanced around at the familiar faces, feeling a disconnection from the reality they inhabited. The chapel was now just an abandoned stone building, stripped of its grotesque menace, yet I could still see its horrors etched in my memory. I remember standing there, I began, my voice steadier than my racing heart. It wasn't just an ordinary structure. It was alive, manipulating our fears. The researchers exchanged glances, their disbelief palpable. I pressed on, recounting the details of that harrowing encounter, each word weighed down by frustration as they posed questions about hallucinations and stress reactions. Their dismissive attitudes only deepened my sense of isolation. How could they not see what lay beneath the surface? John, my superior, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed defensively. "Marcus," he interrupted smoothly, "these claims about mimic intelligence are unsubstantiated field theories." My voice trembled with indignation as I fought against the tide of bureaucracy drowning out my truth. "I know what I saw. This is bigger than we realize." But even as those words left my lips, I sensed the futility in them. It was like shouting into a void. Later that day, I found myself at David's parents' house, a place filled with memories that felt like ghosts haunting every corner. They greeted me with forced smiles and an air of sorrowful acceptance as they spoke about a gas leak that had claimed their son's life. My heart twisted painfully at the injustice. Their belief in this fabricated narrative cut deeper than any physical wound could have. As they recounted stories about David's heroism that fateful day, a lump formed in my throat. Their admiration for him felt misplaced against the backdrop of what truly happened. He had sacrificed everything while the agency spun tales to protect its image. Guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. I owed it to his memory to expose the truth. Walking back to my car afterward, shadows stretched across the pavement like accusing fingers pointing at me for not doing more. The agency's unyielding policy insisted that mimics were nothing more than instinctual predators, mindless beings devoid of intelligence or strategy. But now I understood, they were cunning and deliberate creatures capable of manipulating us in ways we couldn't fathom. I felt a growing isolation settle around me like an oppressive cloak. Knowledge can be a burden when others refuse to acknowledge it. The truth weighed heavily on my conscience, gnawing away at any remnants of peace I once held dear. This wasn't merely a fight against external forces, it was an internal battle against an institution hell-bent on maintaining control over narratives that served only its interests. With every passing day, David's posthumous medal loomed over me like a specter demanding recognition for an act he never performed under false pretenses. Each time I looked at it, resentment burned within me, a deep moral debt I could never repay. How many others would be left to suffer while we buried our heads in lies? At work the next week, I watched as evidence was systematically dismantled before my eyes, files disappearing from databases and witness testimonies erased from records. Anger surged through me like wildfire. This wasn't just negligence, it was willful ignorance masking itself as procedure. What kind of organization thrives on deception? Confronting John about these actions felt like stepping into quicksand. Every argument dissolved under his calm facade. "You're overreacting," he said dismissively while flipping through papers with feigned interest in something other than our conversation. "No." My voice broke through that sterile air with unexpected forcefulness. "This isn't right. We need to address what happened." He simply shrugged off my concerns as if they were irrelevant whispers lost amidst corporate chatter. At home later that evening, guilt coiled around me like thick smoke choking out light, a reminder that every choice carried consequences far beyond myself alone. As darkness fell outside my window, shadows crept closer until they became indistinguishable from reality itself, a fitting metaphor for everything spiraling out of control within this agency built on lies. I paced restlessly through familiar rooms, the walls closing in while doubt crept into every corner of my mind. Would anyone ever listen? Could one voice truly make any difference? Frustration bubbled beneath the surface. I had to take action before all hope faded completely. My resolve solidified as memories flashed through my mind, David's laughter ringing out amidst distant trees under sunlight, moments too precious to let slip away unnoticed. He deserved better than this travesty masquerading as justice. In quiet defiance against looming shadows surrounding me now, my heart thrummed with determination. I would not allow fear or apathy bind me further. With newfound clarity guiding each step forward, I prepared myself for whatever lay ahead. My thoughts settled on one undeniable truth: the agency needed to be confronted, and soon. The worn-out soles of my boots crunched against the gravel as I stepped into the desolate research lab, a once bustling hub now reduced to a graveyard of forgotten equipment and shadows. I had returned to the field, driven by an unshakable sense of moral debt to David. The world felt different, distorted, every corner echoed with memories I couldn't shake off. My new partner, Emily, walked beside me, her demeanor light and carefree as she scanned the debris. I envied her oblivion to the storm raging within me. As we navigated through the remnants of broken machinery and scattered papers, something caught my eye, a small, crumpled note lying amidst the matted debris. I bent down to pick it up, heart racing as recognition flooded my senses. The handwriting was unmistakable. David's frantic scrawl leaped off the page like a specter from my past. "It's not eating our flesh, but it still hurts so bad," I read aloud, feeling each word stab at my insides like needles. A cold shiver coursed through me as the chilling implications sank in. David had understood far more than any of us had grasped. He had realized that these mimics were not mere projections but something deeper, more sinister. They held grudges, twisted emotions that went beyond instinct. The weight of this revelation pressed down on me like a physical force. David was alive, somewhere in this horrifying transformation, and I had to make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain. I felt my resolve harden. Whatever remained of my sanity would be devoted to uncovering the truth. Emily turned to me, her brow furrowed in confusion. "What does it mean?" she asked innocently, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. Her voice felt distant as if she were speaking from another world entirely. How could she not understand? "It means everything we thought was wrong," I replied sharply, struggling to keep my voice steady. "We're dealing with something intelligent, something that knows how to manipulate us." The urgency in my voice startled her. She took a step back as if sensing the darkness swirling around us. I looked around the lab again, searching for signs or remnants that could shed more light on what had happened here. A chill ran down my spine as shadows danced across the walls, phantoms of what once was mingling with the present moment like memories refusing to fade away. "Let's keep looking," I urged Emily before stepping further into the labyrinthine corridors that twisted away from our current location. Each creak of old wood beneath our feet felt like a warning echoing through time, a reminder that we were trespassing into forbidden territory where knowledge came at a steep price. As we delved deeper into the bowels of this abandoned facility, whispers seemed to coil around us, a disembodied chorus murmuring secrets just beyond comprehension. My heart raced with both fear and determination. This wasn't just about unearthing information, it was about confronting an undeniable reality that threatened our very existence. Suddenly, Emily paused beside a half-open door leading into a small room bathed in darkness. "Do you hear that?" she asked quietly, her eyes wide with apprehension. My instincts flared. There was something unsettling about this place, a palpable tension wrapped around us like a suffocating shroud. Without waiting for an answer, I pushed through the door and stepped inside cautiously. The air felt charged with energy, the kind that prickled at my skin and made every hair on my body stand on end. I squinted into the dimness and saw an array of ancient files piled haphazardly on a desk, their yellowing pages crumbling under their own weight. Rushing forward, I rifled through them frantically, each document another piece of evidence confirming everything we feared about these mimics' intelligence and intent. Names were scrawled across pages alongside dates, missing persons reports intermingled with cryptic notes about experiments gone awry. Then one particular file caught my attention. As soon as I opened it, nausea washed over me at what lay within, sketches depicting grotesque forms resembling human silhouettes intertwined with monstrous features resembling those seen in nightmares. My stomach churned as realization dawned upon me. These were former agents transformed by their very own creations. Marcus. Emily's voice broke through my growing dread, her expression mirrored mine, horror etched across her face as she pointed toward one corner of the room where shadows writhed unnaturally against the wall. Instinctively, adrenaline surged through me like wildfire, igniting every nerve ending in its path. Some primal part of myself screamed for survival amidst encroaching darkness threatening to engulf us both. But before I could react fully, a low growl resonated from within those depths, the sound sending shivers cascading down my spine. Time froze for an instant while clarity struck hard. The mimics weren't merely lurking anymore, they were evolving. I grabbed Emily's arm and yanked her back toward safety just moments before chaos erupted around us. The wall seemed alive, pulsating with energy, as if whatever lay beyond was reaching out for something, or someone. Run! My voice thundered above echoes reverberating through this cursed place while instinct kicked in hard. I didn't look back but focused solely on escape. We dashed down corridors filled with debris while uncertainty clawed at our heels, a primal fear urging us onward despite knowing full well danger lurked just behind every corner. Finally bursting out into daylight again felt surreal, the brightness almost blinding after being enveloped by shadows for too long, but even then, my heart raced relentlessly. I turned toward Emily, breathless yet resolute. We need to expose this truth before it consumes everyone else. But deep down, I knew time was slipping away faster than either of us could comprehend. Today, when I look back at those moments, it becomes clear how fragile our understanding truly is. I learned that no matter how deep or dark they tried pulling us, we would rise again. And perhaps, it would be enough to ignite hope amidst despair. Did you like this story? Leave a like, comment your thoughts and subscribe for more stories.